What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fantastical channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. The conversation around Fable, since its delay to next year, has become very interesting. I think everyone is having a free-for-all, taking a go at the game. And it's just very interesting to hear some of the positions from people out there. I was listening to a clip from Astro Cyborg that he clipped from Reforge's show that he does every day. And I heard some things I thought this has got to be unhinged because he said something along the lines of, a CG trailer and all of this stuff. I mean, you're unveiling a game, you show some CG trailer or a piece of the game. And in today's day and age, from somebody who knows how Unreal Engine works and the way other engines would do things similarly, it's not difficult for you to be able to go ahead and take a piece of your game and actually present it as part of your gameplay. Most studios have kind of moved away from CG trailers for the most part, which they did one a while back with Fable in one of its first unveilings. And then, in the case of another person like Dreamcast guy, it went to a whole different direction. I can't even remember what he said. Then I saw an audience member point out something that I'd been seeing on Twitter that I didn't even take seriously, which is that now it seems like the reason that the game has received a delay is because they want to go ahead and make a PlayStation port. While I'm at this, let me go ahead and do some gear sorting here on this My Division character and kind of trash some stuff while we talk about this. The very first thing I want to go ahead and say is, number one, it doesn't take a year, and it shouldn't take a year for a company like PlayStation, like Xbox, and their studios to have to use all that time to port for PlayStation. That's number one. So that's just a misnomer. If you want to figure out like how easy it is to do a port after your game has been made, look at the developers of the game Inotria. These folk basically came out with the mindset that they were going to go ahead and launch their game first for PlayStation, right? And then after it was all said and done, they even told Xbox players, when Xbox players asked and said, hey, man, are you guys bringing this game our way? They said, oh, well, we want to go ahead and prioritize the PlayStation and the PC version with quality, and then we'll get to the Xbox version. Well, after they saw that, man, this game is probably not going to resonate with, those audiences, they decided that Xbox was blessed with a huge gaming community and would love to see Notra on their platform as fast as possible, as we spent a lot of money and resources to make it happen. It took them about 2 months. I remember, if you go read this thread, if you want to see this stuff all play out, go read this thread and you'll get a good sense of how fast it took them to go ahead and port their game. And I think you're going to realize very quickly that that's not what it should take a studio like that to port a game. I don't care what size of game it is, to be very honest. A lot of these systems can be done very easily. And then probably developing the game and knowing that they were doing Project Latitude, they would have been entertaining the idea anyways to go ahead and do that. So whether or not the game is going to be on PlayStation is not, something that Xbox fans care about. It's what PlayStation fans should be caring about, if you get what I mean. PC folk, we just get the game day one. We're already in the mix, no problem. Steam, and then, Windows PC Store. So that's the thing. So when I'm seeing people saying that it's basically been delayed for reports, I'm like, no. You're more concerned about an Xbox game. You're not even concerned about when Intergalactic is ever going to show up. You know what I mean? Like, you're concerned about an Xbox game at this moment. And so that is not the case. That's the first thing that has to get out of the way. The other thing, too, is that, these folk are saying that the game must be in trouble or whatever it is. Well, the reality is, if you think about it, though, one of the biggest marks of what you're going to see with Xbox right now is majority of, Xbox's games are going to need to space themselves out. This is straight common sense. Like, if you think that somewhere, somehow, that these games probably need, some level of, they don't need any kind of, personal attention, especially in such a crowded market. And they probably need to go ahead and be dumping all these games at once. That's not how it's going to work. In fact, I almost believe that PlayStation at this point is positioning itself to ride into the PlayStation 6. And Xbox does not want to be caught flat-footed. So they want to have some games on the back end in their back pocket when they're doing a launch of another console to create excitement. So spacing these games out makes sense if you think about it that way. It could be that that's not the case. I mean, Elder Scrolls 6 is there if the game in development has actually reached a sensible place, right? But if they were to hold maybe 4 heavy hitters for the launch of the next Xbox console, then they're in a very good rhythm, because what people are going to see is the plethora of already existing games within Xbox, and how all those games are pretty much going to go ahead, and, in a sense, work for their already existing audience, if you get what I mean. So you already have all this in place, and then at the end of the day, if you think that this is something that is a bad thing in any way, then you're probably maybe attempting to gaslight at this point. And this is the challenge that we have, ladies and gentlemen, is that the gaslighting continues regardless. Like, everything could be going fine, and then one small hiccup happens and everybody is up in arms. And this is the up in arms that we've been talking about all this while, that, a lot of these so-called PlayStation talking heads will lose their minds and start to get up in arms when just recently PlayStation canceled 10 live service games. Now, do you know what these folk did? They said, oh, well, it's live service, and because we don't like live service, it doesn't really pertain to what we should either criticize PlayStation for, and whatever nonsense they all said. Now, some of them threw it out there, but they threw it out there as, well, it's because PlayStation didn't work with these studios in the first place. That's why all this stuff went ahead and just bombed. How were they supposed to go ahead and do anything useful if there was no more organic, growth from within? All these very silly excuses, not acknowledging the fact that money has already been wasted, and those games are not going to see the light of day, and developers are basically going to have to, in a sense, lose a lot of progress from their work. And in some cases, like in the case of Concord's developer Firework and Neon Koi, those developers have basically gotten, they've gotten let go. They basically reduced the force. Oh, they increased the stash size to 400. Finally, somebody started it. You know what? Why would I even say finally? They should have given this stuff a long time ago. These developers are massive. I don't know what's up with you guys, man. We support y'all, and then this is how you treat us. Anyways, as I was saying, I'm going to go ahead and start loading stuff in the stash so I can have stuff to carry. So when you kind of think about it, ladies and gentlemen, like, it's one of those things where you really can't take these conversations serious sometimes. You really got to sit there and you really got to laugh and say, this is just a whole bunch of buffoonery that's going on. To be very honest, I mean, and I hate to classify, an individual's work as buffoonery, but why not when the individual has pretty much shown that they are not concerned about, any kind of objectivity, or maybe they truly are deluded and think that they're objective, right? And at the end of the day, they absolutely are not. They just think that they're objective, and so they say things to maybe pretend to be objective in one form or the other, but they really are not. And so this particular framework and this particular frame of mind, it really has come full circle where we really have to now start evaluating, okay, what in the world is going on? Is it out of question for a game to be delayed? Because I guarantee you, these same folk, if you go look through their itinerary or their whole flying around the internet, they've looked at a studio, delay a game, and they've said, you know what? It's good for a game to be delayed. They've said those words in one form or the other about a different game. But because Fable is an Xbox game, there's fire on the mountain. We get it. You guys eat because Xbox is a thing. You farm dollars because Xbox is a thing. Because if you had to sit there and talk about PlayStation, there's really nothing going on in PlayStation's world. Really, for sure, there really isn't anything. I mean, you are literally complaining about one Xbox game getting a delay. You've not been able to complain about each individual of the 10 live service games that were canceled by PlayStation. Do you see? Because if you spend time, fixating on each of those canceled live service games, you'd probably not have even reached this one Fable game that is, in a sense, going to be delayed within Xbox's own roadmap. In fact, I saw another clip. Reforge kept saying that, Xbox is bringing these fake roadmaps, because after every reveal, everyone's like, we're eating good. And then the roadmap is not, it's fake. It's not accurate because, at the end of the day, they don't bring out the games in, the timeline or whatever the heck it is. And all this simply because, according to so-called Reforge, they brought out Avowed later than they had envisioned for it to come out. Well, what did you expect for them to slot Indiana Jones and Call of Duty and so on and so forth? I mean, you got to put a game somewhere where it's going to sell. Even if you got Game Pass, you still want to be able to cop some sales. So if you squeeze them all together, you're going to Titanfall Battlefield 1 your game. And, Xbox, according to most of you, with the way you all think Xbox is stupid, right? If they did business your way, they'd be out of business. But the reason that they're still in business is because they consistently subvert all of the expectations that most of the gaming industry wants to put them in. And I think this is what's pretty much made me, laugh so much, because their own approach continues to remain sustainable within the market. So they're just here growing bigger, as everyone continues to try to see them in a smaller light. It's like this is just a weird gaming conversation overall. Because 1 minute, they can't sell a console to save their lives. Next minute, they're the biggest publisher on your platform. Not only are they the biggest publisher on your favorite platform, they're the biggest publisher on all your favorite channels. They're the biggest publisher on the lips of all your favorite podcasters. They're the biggest publisher on the headlines of almost every news outlet. And so the whole thing has changed, and basically a rug pull from a business perspective has been pulled on you. You really don't know where else to go. So lambasting is probably just your programming language is to throw a big, huge fit every time Xbox does something, and to pretend like, oh, well, it's not such a big deal when PlayStation is doing way worse in those categories. Because, you're going to hold the 75 million consoles on your head, even though it's been exposed that even with those 75 million consoles, every single person almost is a bargain gamer. Which is just interesting at the end of the day. So let's basically stop, these so-called console Fable wars that people are over here trying to do, because in some weird world, they think there's any benefit or value to it. And, there are people that are going to continue to entertain this nonsense fantasy. This is the world that we live in. Some individuals are quite gullible people. It doesn't really matter how much you show them evidence. In their minds, they hold a belief, and that belief is basically, strong, and it's real to them. Instead of them to basically admit that they've been fooled in these cases, they'll basically sit there and never admit to it. In their minds, if they were to admit to it, then, it's a big, massive issue. It's a big, massive problem. But anyways, I digress. I'm going to go ahead and, dust off this character and play some The Division 2. Because, again, I think these folk need to probably just go ahead and, take some time to relax. Understand what gaming is about, because, it's such a big deal, and it's much more than the pedantic nonsense that we're continuing to see online, fomented by individuals who, position themselves to think that, they're going to be adding value in the conversation, but constantly keep getting exposed as, in some cases, frauds and dishonest. But I digress. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you all so much. Peace out.